So hello everyone. See, now she knows I'm streaming. Get over there. So yeah, hello everyone. We're just gonna kind of hang out and wait for everybody to just kind of stream in as they do. And I'm gonna make sure I have everything I need set up where I need it, which is actually sometimes trickier than it sounds. So, make sure I don't have too many windows open, too many tabs open. Yeah. So yes, hi, hi Veronica, hi Tanner, hi DPI, who else slid in? Hey Kerbal. I think those are all the people that said hi, so hi! Yeah. So DPI says, I watched a nice video from a talk about Space Ops 101 yesterday, aka Space Ops for Nerds. That would be super cool to watch, actually. I would geek out with you and watch that. I would totally geek out with you and watch that. So you may hear this very kind of constant metal on metal clicking. That is Puck's water bottle. It's like a hamster water bottle for dogs. And yeah, he really likes it because it doesn't scare him. Yes, he gets scared of some water dispenser thingies. Oh, neat. I will totally check that out later. Click it now and pull it up just so it's there. Why it's the first screen when you see it is, why does the spacecraft not fall down? Because it's going really fast. Get over there, Tink. So Puck is created because he's been getting a little snippy with Tinkerbell about Cheerios, and that's disturbing to me. So in order to see more of Tinkerbell on stream and less of Puck snipping at Tinkerbell, he's in the crate, which is right next to me. Oh, are you stealing souls like a good little dachshund? She is. ZPI says about the video, mic quality of the Q&A is abysmal, but the talk isn't half bad. I guess our Instro would chuckle a lot, though. He probably would. I could see that being something he would chuckle about. He's at work, though, so, you know, there's that. There's that. Oof. Puppy Cam, hi, Ro. I'm just gonna call you Rose. I am so sorry. I am terrible at pronouncing names, so I'm gonna call you Rose because we don't have anybody else called Rose. So yeah, I have a puppy cam. Isn't it amazing? It's amazing. I have 2 dogs, one of which is in timeout right now. And I just realized that things are kind of cutting into the puppy cam that shouldn't be there. There we go, that's a bit better. That's just me being a perfectionist. Oh, my green screen's just a tad bit too close to me. Oh good, I'm glad Rose is fine with you. So, I know Tinkerbell. So, the dog you see on cam, I'm gonna flip it over so you can see better. So that little dog is Tinkerbell. She is a black and tan, smooth coat, half mini, half standard dachshund. She's essentially a really long mini dachshund. And she is my baby. She is going on, gosh, 12 years old, I think? I think she's 11 right now. Puck is definitely 10. No, Puck is 11. You guys are too close in age. But, no, she's 12. I'm sorry. She's 12 going on 13. And Puck is 11. So even though they look young and they act young, they are not young. In fact, my favorite human and I have frequent discussions about whether or not she should be allowed to hunt anymore. His feeling is no. My feeling is at least let her hunt insects and moles like voles and things of that nature. At least let her hunt those. Yeah, my dog has killed groundhogs. But Dachshunds were bred to be like badger dogs, so groundhogs, badgers, you know. But yeah, she's very food motivated, and she will totally beg for bits and steal your soul. So the other one is a white fluffy thing that some people recognize as a Spitz. He is an American Eskimo, and yeah, he's just a white fluffy thing, but because he's been a bit naughty, he's in the crate, which is actually under the dog cam. Get over there, Tink. Go on. He's in the crate, which is actually under the dog cam, and there's not really a good way for me to have both the crate and her in frame without having a nice clean everything. Because it already, to me, already looks kind of sloppy because there's a scarf hanging down and there's leashes hanging down, and it's my front door. So, badger, 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 mushroom, mushroom. Yes, I love that song. Hey, Guido, was waiting for my tablet to reboot and now it's time to make dinner as usual. What's for dinner, Guido? I made tacos last night for Taco Tuesday. Tonight I'm supposed to make pizza. I'm not sure what I'm going to put on the pizza. I don't know if Favorite Human bought cheese for me to put on the pizza. So it might just be a piece of bread and sauce and toppings. But my little sourdough starter Bob has been looking healthy. Hey, Lady Pembroke! Oh, you're making risotto? Ah. There's a terrible part of me that wants to take the lazy way out and just order pizza tonight. But I'd have to order way early because by the time... Pizza again? I know, right? I actually haven't... Wait, I guess I already have had pizza this week, but it was flatbread. Yeah, I make my own pizza. I have a sourdough starter, so I use the pizza for lunch. Awesome, Lady Pembroke! I have a sourdough starter, so I use that, plus a little bit of yeast, and some more flour, obviously, and that's how I usually use my sourdough discard, is by making pizza dough. The other thing I use my sourdough discard for is butter, but I actually have to... Oh! Have a good breakfast, Veronica! We'll chat later. Or, you know, you'll watch this later, you know. But yeah, have a good breakfast, Veronica. Nice seeing you. The other thing I use my sourdough discard is for crackers. And I try to, like, make this weird flatbread out of the discard, but I like the pizza crust and crackers better. The crackers actually requires the butter to be, like, at room temp, so yeah. DPI asks, what is your sourdough starter named? His name is Bob. His name is totally Bob. And I have scarred my 12-year-old nephew with Bob. I was driving my nephew around somewhere, and I asked him if he wanted pizza for dinner, and he loves pizza. He doesn't like cheese on his pizza, but he loves pizza. Hey, Michael T. Meyer. So I told him that I make my own crust, which he's not used to that. I think he's used to, at his mom's house, just tossing a frozen pizza in the oven, or maybe they get, you know, pre-made crusts and add toppings to that. But I told him, no, I make my own crust, I make my own sauce, and, you know, we just have to buy cheese and shred it and add toppings. So I told him about Bob and how Bob was my pet, and he asked questions like, when we were making the dough, asked questions like, if Bob could speak, what would he say? Like, he'd probably be screaming right now because I'm tearing him apart. I thought it was funny, but he was very, very concerned and went over to my sister's house, and my sister's wife had to explain to him that It's a sourdough starter. It doesn't speak. It doesn't feel pain. It's okay. But yeah, for a tiny bit, I scarred my nephew with my sourdough starter. Because I think it's funny to refer to it as my pet. Because it is kind of a pet. It does have to be fed regularly. It does have to be taken care of. You can't just set it off somewhere and ignore it for a while. Because bad things can happen, like mold growth. And it can produce too much alcohol and things of that nature. And as the temperature has gotten warmer for me, it's been more of a struggle to make sure that he gets fed on a semi-regular basis so he doesn't produce too much. See, just because it says questionablecontent.net, I'm afraid. Oh, yeah! Okay, it's not scary. It's about a sourdough starter. Oh, this is adorable. This is adorable. I was afraid, but it is adorable. But yeah, I have to keep an eye on Bob. So yeah, Bob's outgassing. He actually is kind of... He asked, and yeah, Trillian says, well, he asked, and you were just honest with him. I was. He was a little freaked out, but he's better about Bob now. I keep asking him if he wants part of Bob to take home to be one of his pets, and he's like, no. I don't want part of Bob. I'd forget to feed him. Like, okay. Which it really wouldn't be that big of a deal if he forgot to feed, like, his bit of Bob, because I could just give him more Bob. So, yeah. No visiting Aunt Annie for a while for him. It's a good one, Falco. It's a good one. Refsmat says, you're talking about your sourdough starter like it's Audrey 2 from Little Shop of Horrors. Oh my gosh, am I really? I do love my little sourdough starter. He's a good sourdough starter. And Tinker, you're not even on camera to beg for souls properly. So, hashtag feed Bob. I do have to feed Bob. Oh my goodness, he goes through so much flour. Lady Pembroke says, I need a sourdough starter. If I was better about mailing things, I would totally mail you some of my starter. Oh my goodness. So I think I saw Ironheart slide in. Falco, you're a new face. So before we get started, do we have a stream dream goal for May, says DPI. I don't know, because I think we're funded all the way up until July. And I don't think Dr. Pamela likes doing fundraising too often. I've thought about doing like my own bits goal, which would be enough to cover my stuff for a week. Oh, Ryolate's hosting me. Oh, that's awesome. No, it's okay that you crashed the party. It's okay. I'm happy you're here. Really, I am. It's okay. So no, we don't have a stream dream goal for May. I may talk to Dr. Pamela about setting up a monthly bits goal, which would essentially cover me streaming probably 2 hours a week, which, keep in mind, for some of my streams I take an hour or two to prepare for them. So yeah. But yeah, so yeah, hi, Tom Van Scooter. Hey, Bad Panda Bear. So it looks like everybody is here. The Roger Corman Little Shop movie. I'm not sure if I've seen that one or parts of that one. I know one of my high school friends' parents recorded Little Shop of Horrors. They purposely left out the dentist scene because they didn't want their kids to be afraid of the dentist, which I thought was super sweet of them. Falco asks, so who will get to Mars first, do you think? Another robot. Another robot. Oh, there's Stormer Joe. I almost forgot about you. So Stormer Joe says, hey, made it. All right. So I'm going to turn off the music so it doesn't keep going, and we're going to get started. I would do the please hold thing. In fact, I am going to do the please hold thing, which is just a little intro video, and then we'll get into, you know, the official stream bit. So here's the little movie. That's how I'm muted. Oh my goodness. I had chat hidden. All right, so part of me is like, let's try this again. I blame the video clip. All right, so hi. Hi, I'm Annie. I am not an astronomer. I know. Oof. I am so unprofessional at times, but thank you all for your patience. So yeah, hi, I'm Annie. I am not an astronomer. I know enough astronomy to be dangerous. Our astronomer is Dr. Pamela Gay. She is in Budapest this week at a conference. And that means I will be covering today, but I pretty much almost always cover Wednesdays, and I'll also be covering Friday. So when I cover, I typically do rocket launches and space missions and things of that nature on Wednesdays. Friday, I'll try to bring you more science. Daily Space, which is, this is your daily-ish Monday through Friday astronomy news and space science roundup. Yeah. So we try to bring you the latest stuff. Sometimes there's a lot of things going on. Sometimes there's not a lot of things going on. So, it happens. Oof, oof. And as you saw me throw bits at the dogs, I will reward you with doggy cuteness for pretty much any bit donation, if there's a Patreon donation that comes through, if any alert, essentially any alert that pops up on my screen, I'll throw Cheerios at the dogs. And as a demonstration, because you guys kind of missed it, and Tinker is just off screen, which kills me because she's doing the staring of the soul. So here's the Cheerios, and make it rain! Just so you guys get the whole effect. I'm going to see if I can adjust the doggo cam a little bit, since she wants to pull more off to one side than the other. So yeah, this dog is Tinkerbell. She is a very long miniature dachshund. She's 12, going on 13 years old, and she is not a space dog, but she is adorable. She's a good doggo. Okay, so I guess we get started with all that now that all the introductions and things are out of the way. There's not a whole lot of launches happening in this coming week, so some of this will be, yes, Leica was indeed the first dog in space. So some of this will be, oh no, where'd my thing go? Everything kind of reset. Yes, Leica was the first dog in space, and as String Theory points out, all space dogs are unfortunate, and we can, if somebody reminds me, we can chat more about that at the end. Because there have been many animals in space, and space dogs pretty much are unfortunate. So, there's not a whole lot of launches going on this week, but within the next week, there is one SpaceX launch. And as a reminder, if you guys have any questions throughout the news portion, at me with them, and I will do my best to answer everything at the end. I do ask that you be respectful and keep it close to astronomy. So yeah, I think that's all. But yeah, SpaceX has a launch this week. It's set for May 16th, 2:30 a.m. UTC, and May 15th at 10:30 p.m. Eastern. So we will be covering this, and I will bring you more information about it next week. And for those of you on the West Coast, it will be at 7:30 p.m. So this is totally a launch that we will cover because it is not at a stupid early hour of the day. So yes, we're going to cover it. No, you can't have more Cheerios. So what they're launching is the Starlink, the first launch of the Starlink constellation. And it's expected to provide satellite internet, not in the very rural areas where they put up a tower and beam internet to, satellite dishes, but this is internet that comes from satellites in space. They are not the first ones that have done this. OneWeb has part of their constellation up now with some coverage, and I guess it's working in some areas. So SpaceX is not the first one to do this, but they're going to get theirs up. And this is just a picture of what they expect the finished constellation to look like. So there's really not too much other information on the internet about this yet. Last night I couldn't even find anything on SpaceX's Twitter that mentioned the launch. And this image is what the satellites will look like. It is an older test satellite that they've launched as kind of like a payload test. So, as I said, there wasn't a whole lot of info about this last night when I was putting my slides together. So, I'll bring you an update next week. And hopefully by then I'll have a little bit more info. So that's pretty much, as of last night, because I haven't checked this morning, the only launch that's going to happen within a week's time frame. So the next story I have for you is about LandSpace, which some people call China's SpaceX, but LandSpace is one of 3 private space launch companies in China, so that's pretty cool. They've had 1 launch so far, and they're working on their second rocket. Their first rocket was solid fuel, which is kind of common in China, but the second rocket that they're working on is not going to be solid fuel. So here's a picture of one of those engines, and they essentially have they essentially announced the completion, and they've already done a bunch of testing of the Tianque-12 engine, which is to be used with its second orbital launch vehicle. So there's a human in this for scale, and here is a very beautiful 3D rendered image. They used a lot of computer simulation, digital design, advanced manufacturing techniques. They're saying they use 3D printing, laser welding, and digital bending, which I don't even know what digital bending is. And they're claiming that this improved the pipeline assembly quality and shortened the engine assembly cycle. So at present, the engine components have passed the cold test, the extrusion hot test, and the semi-system test. And I apologize if the rest of this doesn't make sense because it was translated from Chinese. It says the test is qualified in the conditions for participating in the interview car evaluation. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. I used Google Translate, which can struggle because certain characters can mean the same thing. Certain characters can mean multiple things, excuse me. So, yes, this is going to be a Methalox engine, which I had never even heard of before last night, but I guess is a thing. And I'm assuming it'll be less toxic than the solid fuel engines and rockets that China as a national space agency uses. So I'm not really up on my space engines or on my rocket engines. I know probably more about fuel types than rocket engines. So that's what I can tell you. If our Instro was here, our Instro would be able to answer some of your questions about this, I'm sure, because, I don't know, he's totally the rocket geek. So there are on their website more images of this engine. I just picked this one because I felt like it gave a better overview, and they do have many images of it in different angles. So, all right. So our last portion is about the SSOA, that's Sierra Sierra Oscar Alpha, which was back in September when SpaceX launched a whopping 64 satellites. 49 of them were CubeSats, which are quite small, like a shoebox, and I think there were over... Sorry, somebody honked their horn outside, and my dogs definitely do not like that, which means it is a pet peeve of mine. Okay, you can have the special treat, Puck. Where was I? Okay, so yeah. This launch that happened early December, SpaceX released 64 satellites. 49 of them were CubeSats. I think they had over 35 customers. A lot of international things, a lot of teeny tiny. They just jam-packed all of these satellites onto one payload, and it was amazing. It was amazing that they were able to get that many satellites up all at once. But there was a problem. There was totally a problem. This happened during the shutdown, which means that, I know, I'm getting there, which means that all of these little satellites didn't all get unique identifiers right away, partially because so many were released at once. So many were released at once. And we're going to talk about why the shutdown affected this and caused some failures in a second. But if you look at the graphic I have on the screen, you can see that there was definitely more than one art exhibit on this launch. So two art exhibits on this launch, one of which was definitely affected by the shutdown. The other one was not. And I feel the other one, yes, the US government shutdown. And the other one, I feel, didn't get the attention it deserved. Probably because everything went off as planned and it wasn't as flashy as a giant disco ball in the sky. So we're going to talk about the one that went well first, because I feel it's super important and needs to be mentioned. I also had a stream last night talking more about this, because I'm going to just touch on it here. If you're really interested in it, watch the stream last night where we go more into depth about this art project. So this art project was called Enoch, and the image you're seeing is the display unit. Another unit was sent off into space. So this is a 3-unit CubeSat, meaning there's literally just 3 units, boom, 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 together. This was the one that went off without a hitch. It is a 24-karat gold canopic jar. Canopic jar is what the Egyptians used to preserve organs for the afterlife. And it has a bust on it. And the bust is of Robert Henry Lawrence Jr., who was the first African American selected for, apparently, any national space program. He completed training for the Manned Orbital Laboratory program, I believe, and is considered an astronaut. But unfortunately, he never made it into space. So it's super sad. 6 months after he was selected, he died training a junior pilot. And he was a test pilot. He was a flight instructor. He developed techniques for gliding, and apparently aircraft that glide like bricks, meaning they don't glide very well. And some of his flight techniques were used in future space shuttle flights. I'm totally serious about this. He just never got to fly the shuttle. He was also, on top of, all of his accomplishments in the Air Force, he was also a major in the Air Force. Major Lawrence also had his PhD in physical chemistry. This guy was no joke. He was freaking amazing, and we don't talk about all of his contributions to everything, really. We don't talk about how he developed techniques to fly the actual space shuttle, which went on for really, really, really long. So, yeah, the fact that he was a major and finished his PhD in physical chemistry, which is no joke, is pretty freaking impressive. And he was selected, and 6 months later he died in a very tragic accident. So this canopic jar does not contain his organs, to the best of my knowledge. I don't even think it contains any of his ashes, but it was blessed at a Shinto shrine in Japan and is recognized as a container for Lawrence's soul. So to me, this is way more than just an art project. The name. I feel like I also need to mention the name of it. Enoch is a thing that's, it's a name that's, or a term that's found in both, not both, all three, Christian, Jewish, and Muslim holy literature about a person that essentially skips the physical death and goes straight to the afterlife. So even the name has meaning. And yeah, to me, this is not space junk. To me, this is more than an art project. I find it a very fitting tribute to the person that it's meant to honor. He never made it to space. A lot of his contributions helped us, navigate space. And the fact that his soul finally actually gets to be up in space is, to me, very fitting. It is in a, what do I call it? It's in a sun synchronous orbit. It'll be up there for about 7 years before it's expected to deorbit. So it is tracked. It has a number. We can, actually see, hey, we can actually see where it is. Throwing shit. My dogs apparently have opinions on this. So yeah, I find this a very, very fitting tribute. So this is the satellite that went right, and I'm very happy, and there's not a lot of media coverage on it, so I definitely did want to bring it to attention, because it's a very fitting tribute for a very awesome man who, unfortunately, never made it to space in his physical body. So, the other art exhibit. This is the one that went wrong. This is also the one that was more controversial, and this is the one that got way more attention in the media, which is understandable. This was shot up into space. This and the other one was shot up into space by SpaceX. And this satellite this is a 3D render. It's just showing it in its essentially launched form and how it probably looks today. Actually, the solar panels are probably out. This is the orbital reflector. And the orbital reflector, I'll show you the other image, was really meant to be a giant mirror in space. There we go. A giant mirror in space that it was going to reflect sunlight down to Earth, kind of randomly. Astronomers weren't a fan. It kind of was a political statement because it was up there for literally nothing else other than art, and the artist talks about resources for about shared resources being used for only certain things, etc., etc. But because of the shutdown, and because so many satellites were launched at once, this satellite in particular did not get an identifier, and I still don't know if it got an identifier. I feel like there's still a lot of unidentified objects from this launch. I will go back and check later, but as far as I can tell, I couldn't find anything that was marked as it. So because it didn't have an identifier, it could not inflate the mirror, because it's just an inflatable mirror. Or, yeah, it is an inflatable mirror, which sounds weird to say out loud. The team had ground communications with it, but without the FFA giving, that identification number, FFA or FCC, both are involved with satellites. Without getting that identification number, they weren't allowed to, deploy the mirror. And by the time that I think everything was figured out, there was just no more communication from the satellite, because it was only supposed to be functioning for 30 days. So there's that. And I mean, I have mixed feelings about this one, but the fact that they're talking about it's more than, just, how do I want to say this? The artist does have a point about, who gets to do what, and right now it's kind of who has the most money. So there's that. And I mean, we're used to using space for science, but, people also want to use space for things that aren't, art or science. We're talking, military weapons and things. So, yeah. Anyways, that's everything I had for you today. And yeah, the artist was very upset about the orbital reflector. So I'm going to scroll up and look for your questions. So while I'm doing that, if you had any questions that I didn't answer, go ahead and ask them now. And yeah. So, Space Dogs. Oh, that's what it was. Oh, more bits! You get more bits, Tinker! Alright, here's the bits. Because Puck's in his crate, I can't get him to speak. Can you speak in there? No. He's like, no, but can I have some? So here's the Cheerios, and make it rain! Alright. So Space Dog. We will talk about that after I do questions. I don't know if the name of the LandSpace engine has a special meaning. I don't know if the name of LandSpace has a special meaning. I do know that the characters that are used to spell out or to represent LandSpace were translated by Google as Blue Arrow Space or something like that. It was really weird when I was reading it. And I don't have the software that I used to have to help me read Chinese things. So I do not know Chinese. I can recognize probably numbers 0 through 4 for sure. Probably 1 through 5. And I don't know. Oh, DPI is saying, I think BE4 is also a Methalox. Pretty sure Raptor is Methalox. So I haven't seen one of those launches yet, which is why I had never heard of Methalox before. And I am going to be quite frank and say that I didn't do a lot of digging into this. I did way more digging into Enoch last night. Hi. Hi. So Journey Started has concerns about Enoch and Art. So Journey Started says, I'm worried someone in a spaceship will inadvertently collide with objects considered art. So let me show you something cool as soon as I get my stuff organized. The chances of that happening when it's large and trackable are very, very low. It's the things that are small and we struggle with tracking where that's going to be more of an issue. We track so much stuff in space. Give me 1 second and I will show you what I mean by this. So here we go. Here is a live-ish view of all the satellites in space. So we're going to zoom out. We played around with this a bit last night, and you can see that there's a lot of things. I forget what the legend is. I know gray is, here we go. So gray is debris, red is satellite, and blue is a rocket body. So yes, there is a lot of debris. A lot of debris. And most of it is indeed quite close to us. And I'm not entirely too sure what yellow stands for, because they don't have those in the Object L. See, they don't even know what Object L is. I don't know if yellow is unidentified. Shh. Yellow might actually be unidentified. But even though we don't know what they are, they still have an identifier. So this is pretty cool. If it's large enough to track, we track it. And yes, 3 CubeSat size, 1 CubeSat size is large enough for us to track. So that's not the debris we have to worry about. People definitely keep track of when things are coming back down into Earth, and there's a whole lot of stuff into this. I know everybody's very concerned about space junk, and there are companies out there that are working on solutions, and hopefully we won't have to worry about it too much longer. So I don't know the identifier for 099 Victor. I don't know the identifier for orbital reflector, but this is the identifier, and this is the highlighted orbit of Enoch. And we can also find all launches from this payload, which here are some of the ones where it's Object P, Object Q, Object T. Like, they're still identifying what is what, which is very kind of sad. And this would not have happened if the government was open, quite frankly. So we can try to do ORB. Yep. And this is just OrbCon. Orbital reflector is not going to be in here. Orb Weaver. I'm not sure what Orb Weaver is. But yeah, we know where this stuff is. And that's literally the best way for me to show you that we know where all this stuff is. This website is stuffin.space. Yeah. X-Ray Specialist Punk says, I want to go surfing on a different planet. That would be cool. That would be cool. Trillian says, there are proposals for giant mirrors in space to light up areas at night during emergencies, which I think is wild. Restmat says, not really interested in the satellite art projects that are just creating bright light. There have been some neat orbital reflector experiments in the past. The Russian, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that in particular, but these projects are not very useful and they have some interesting failure modes. That's one way to put it. That is one way to put it. I don't know how I feel about, I don't know how I feel about giant mirrors in the sky. I feel like that's more trouble than what it's worth, and potentially really damaging to science we do here on the ground. DPI says Tianke means Scorpio, which makes sense for the terrible, terrible, terrible translation that I have found. Tianke is also a city in China, so that's what I could do. First letter is heaven, sky. Second is magpie. Could mean heavenly magpie then. Aww. Yellow is dogs, maybe. Yellow is not dogs. There are no dogs in space. Trillian asks, when a satellite is no longer working, does it become debris or is it still identified as a satellite? I can't remember the name of that one satellite. So let's pick a debris object on this. So here is... Oh, you want to know what? That is from a launch. CZ3B, that's from a Chinese launch. Arian is from a Chinese, or is from Arian. Breeze. I don't know what this is. It's got a really weird orbit, though. I am not entirely too sure. Isn't it an Intelsat or something that went wonky? If somebody can remember, please, mention it in the chat. Oh, wait, here. Thor Ablestar, which, because it says Ablestar, makes me think that it was a satellite. I know, Tinker. I know. But I'm not entirely too sure. There are so many satellites up there, and it's very hard to keep track. But Thor Ablestar seems like it would be a satellite. Starhopper has Raptors, so Methalox, but much smaller tanks. Oh, okay. I guess I've just never really... Oh, wait, that's right, because Starhopper isn't really doing anything other than tests. So Falco says, I don't understand why the U.S. government is managing the regulations. Couldn't another country handle this during shutdowns? I think it's because it was a U.S. launch from U.S. soil is why everything did it. But, yeah, we're definitely one of the space superpowers. As DPI goes on to explain, U.S. government is responsible for U.S. launches, so EU or Russia won't manage U.S. launches and probably aren't even allowed to. I believe Iridium 23. Thank you, Kerbal. Iridium 23? Oh, 33. Oh yeah, look at that. It's got a bunch of debris. That's kind of terrifying. So this is all debris related to Iridium 33. And I know, I'm trying to figure it out. I don't know. Like, this doesn't really... Like, I don't know if these are bits that are recent. I don't know. Oh, somebody felt bad for you, Tinkerbell. Oh, thank you for the bits, Sammy. All right, here's the Cheerios and make it rain. But yeah, here's all the debris from Iridium 33, and I don't know for sure if that's all recent. Iridium 33. But yeah, this is all the debris from that. Ablestar was a launch vehicle upper stage. Thank you, because I would have just assumed that it was not. And then Intelsat 29. Intel. Sat 29. 29 Echo. Here we go. And then this one is marked as... It doesn't really give the thing when it's all highlighted. Where is it? So we can just kind of zoom and pull it up. I thought I saw it. This one is weird because it's in the geo belt, which means it might just kind of sit there. All right, so there it is. We're gonna turn this off. And we will probably not be able to find it. But there it is. It's still kind of highlighted. Breeze M. So I think for now they're just going to keep calling it a satellite, but they're going to track it. Because I'm really not... There's 35. I know it's in here somewhere. Let's just do Intelsat. Oh, what's this? This is kind of tricky to navigate, and I wish I had my, I wish I had my 3D mouse set up. I know, you heard it. Nope, they still have it marked as a satellite, so it's not marked as debris. So, is the 1997 number on each bit a date? Yes, that is, I believe, the date it was launched, and if not launched, that it was tracked. IS-29 Echo is in GEO, or rather above and beyond GEO. So, yeah. Currently, DPI says currently if you shoot something into LEO, which is low Earth orbit, you have to deorbit it 25 years after decommission at the latest. Oh, wow. It is kind of a scary image, Fenring. I also find it super impressive that we've managed to shoot this much stuff into space. Before we had, quite frankly, Earth tracking satellites, we would send humans up, and then we figured out that it was cheaper to send satellites up. So, yeah, there's this. Of course, but each of these could punch a hole in some other sat. It's like shrapnel in space. So, depending on how large the debris is, yes, that's true. If it's a functioning satellite, that means we can actually adjust the orbit of the satellite to avoid the debris. I mean, sometimes you can do this, sometimes you can't. It's a risk that we take by putting stuff up there. Refsman asks, what's this application for satellite tracking again? It's literally called stuff-in.space. Which to me is one of the most amusing things. So we're going to look for Sputnik, which, am I spelling Sputnik correctly? I am. Sputnik apparently is not up. I know, Tinker. I know. So, I don't know how to make it spin like it was. So, we'll try to get some cute doggies on cam. Sputnik is back, I think. Alright, so let's zoom way out, but there wasn't a search result for it. Explorer? Explorer is still... There are still a number of Explorers up here. It looks like they list them in almost chronological order. They have Explorer 7 tracked. So here's where Explorer 7 is, and it just says it was a payload. So how about Alouette 1? Yeah, it's still there. It's still there. Hi, Zoe! I'm glad that you come in peace. We're checking out really old satellites that are still orbiting the Earth. So Vanguard 1, 1958, is still up there. I don't know if it does any science still. Yeah, good call on... Oh, thank you for the bits! Alright, here's the Cheerios. Oh, look at you sitting pretty for the camera. She is sitting really pretty for the camera. Let me swap over so we can all appreciate how pretty she's sitting for the camera. Alright, here's the Cheerios. And make it rain! And make it rain. So, So yeah, good catch on Vanguard being the oldest oldest satellite up in space. So Sputnik is back. Okay, well Sputnik didn't show up on the search results, which is why I'm like, I don't see it. So it may have re-entered, it may have re-entered, it may have just gone off to the point where we don't worry about it anymore. I really don't know. Excuse me. Vanguard is seriously dead. Ex-Vanguard. Sputnik deorbited after only 2 months. Okay. 3 months. There we go. So yeah, Sputnik is no longer up there. I didn't think it lasted long because I think the Russians were worried we were going to find it. Alright, so let's talk about space dogs, shall we? And I know this is a hard turn, but let's talk about space dogs. So I think here it goes. So this is the best image I can find. This is Laika? I'm so sorry about my pronunciation. Who was a dog in space. And close this. Who became one of the first animals in space and the first animal to orbit the Earth. She was a stray. And she didn't live very long. She died within hours. So yeah. She was pretty young. It's kind of tragic. Dogs in space don't do well. I don't think they've ever came back alive. Maybe they have. Technically, the first animals sent into space were fruit flies. And then, I guess, a Rhesus monkey who died upon impact. Monkeys also didn't do really well. And yeah, we've tossed a lot of, no, not tossed, we've launched a lot of animals into space. So I don't know too much about all the animals in space. I do know there's been a cat in space. France launched a cat. I don't think any dogs have come back. No. Poor Laika. We'll stick with Laika. She died within hours. She overheated. The official word for the longest time was that she ran out of oxygen on day 6. I think the plan was always to euthanize her. The plan was never to bring her back alive in particular. So, yeah. She didn't live very long. Ham came back. Ham was a chimp. Yeah, but I don't know if any dogs have came back. I don't know if do a search here for dog. Soviet space dogs and mice. And there was a cat. There was a cat. Trust me, there was a cat. I'm gonna find. Aha! So the cat was recovered alive. Her name was Felicette. The second cat that they sent, that the French sent, was not recovered alive. Felicette had a 15-minute flight and a descent by parachutes. She also had electrodes implanted in her brain, which is how they recorded neural impulses that were transmitted back to Earth. So not very pleasant. But shh. There we go. Ref's Matt found it. 2 dogs, Belka and Strelka, orbited the Earth safely and landed alive. No, I'm not sending you into space. Have some Cheerios. I know you feel left out. One of their puppies was indeed given as a gift to President Kennedy. All right. Aww. Falco Online says, a friend of my grandfather's made a figurine, gave it to an astronaut to be put on the moon. It's called the Fallen Astronaut in honor of all the astronauts that have died. Yes, the USSR sent tortoises up into space. It's wild. It's wild. I know. I know, Tinker. It's wild. Yeah. The number of animals that have been sent up before we put humans up were in wild. Sputnik had just a core stage and boosters on its rocket, but 375 kilograms, that's like 150, let's just say that's well over 150 bottles of soda, 2-liter soda. Plenty of circularizing, don't you think? Not quite. I don't know. I don't know that much about rockets, String Terry, I'm sorry. Graf Blutwurst asks, so we have a spacesuit by now? I don't think there are any animals that were sent up in the early days that are still up there. Oh gosh, I hope not. If they are up there, they're dead. We have mice in space right now. We have mice in space. Falco Online says, a pet cemetery more likely. I would agree with that statement. It's unfortunate. Yeah, in the 70s, we sent bullfrogs on a one-way mission on the, wait for this, orbiting frog otolith satellite. Not even making this up. Orbiting frog otolith satellite. We've had fish and spiders. Tortoises, rats, mummichog, whatever a mummichog is. Yeah. Fruit flies, stick insects, eggs, and newts. Squirrel monkeys. It's wild. It's wild. We were supposed to hatch eggs in space, but they were on the Space Shuttle Challenger, so that experiment was lost. It was designed for a student contest. So that would have been pretty cool. Hey, David, welcome. We finished all the news, so now we're just talking about animals in space, which is kind of, wild. Shh. Come here, Tinker. Oyster toadfish, carp, sea urchins, swordtail fish, gypsy moth eggs, brine shrimp, quail eggs. What? There's been a jellyfish on a space shuttle? What? The Great Cornholio says, what does the fox say? I don't know. It's a mystery. David says, I missed the news. Well, the news in a nutshell is there's not going to be a whole lot of launches this week. There's like one launch next Wednesday. And we talked about failure of art and some other art. And LandSpace completed, an engine for their next rocket. So, yeah, I don't know how fish work in space. I don't know how fish work in space. That's... Why? Why? Somebody took cockroaches up in a sealed container. At least one of the females conceived during the mission after they were returned to Earth. One of the cockroaches, which they gave a name that I cannot pronounce, became the first Earth creature to produce young that had been conceived in space. They took a free-tailed... Oh no. During discovery, a free-tailed bat was clinging to the fuel tank. It had a broken left wing and some problem with its right shoulder or wrist, and it probably died during the orbit. Oh my goodness. Shh. Yeah, no, the amount of animals we've sent into space are just wild. Just wild. Yeah. Michael T. Meyer asks, have I researched animal space toilets? I have not. I have not. I have not looked into it. I am not sure at all how that was handled. I'm still... Part of me is like, I need to make it through human space toilets first. Oh, Falco. So... the whole conception thing and whole mating in space thing is something that is just not talked about. It's a humongous taboo. So I have not seen any information confirming or denying if things have happened. But it is a very, very taboo subject, and we try to keep... We don't try. We keep the stream family friendly, but for, you know, your information, it's not something astronauts like to talk about, and apparently some of them will blush. So, yeah, I don't know. Trillian asks, after the animals in the 60s and early 70s, was there really a scientific reason to send any animals into space? I honestly don't know. That's a very good question. Like I said, we have mice up in space now. Let's see. There actually is a bit about mice from last year. I don't know if these mice are still living. Probably not, because it's been almost a year. The rodent crew, on 29th June 2018, SpaceX Dragon blasted off from Florida carrying 20 mice. The rodent crew arrived at the ISS on 2 July 2018. Their record-breaking journey, this was the longest mice have been off the planet, was part of a study on how Earth dwellers' physiology, hey, we care about your physiology too. Physiology and sleep schedules responded to the stress of being in space. So yeah. Yeah, I don't know if they're still doing science on them. Like mice and a few other things are model specimens, and we still don't really fully understand, and we're always learning how the human body reacts in space, and sometimes the best way to do this is by seeing how other mammals and other creatures, you know, their bodies react to the stresses of being in space, because space is hard. Space is really hard. Just clipping your fingernails is an activity. Like, you need to have a piece of duct tape. You need to be near something that will suck up, you know, loose particles, because here on Earth, when you clip your nails, if you're like me, the nail clippings will go flying, or if you're really, really, really good, you can make them into a neat pile. There's not enough gravity on the ISS for that. So what you get instead is astronauts very carefully clipping their nails and sticking the pieces to a piece of duct tape that's been, inside out, and making sure that they essentially vacuum up any strays so they don't get into any equipment. Yeah. ISS needs a Roomba. Yeah, they kind of do. Yeah. Oh, Larry Weird and Proud has reminded me that I am now in overtime, because I totally am. It is 2 o'clock. I think I've officially been streaming, or had the stream live, for an hour and a half. We've covered the news. We've talked about space dogs. We talked about other animals in space. Yep. Hour and a half. So this is going to be your last chance for questions, because I have a very whiny dog, and I'm sure the mail is going to come soon, which is just going to irk them even more. So, as you guys type in your questions, oh, more bits! Look at that, Tinker! Thank you, Trekker Kev. So here's the Cheerios, and make it rain! I'm going to slide some Cheerios to Puck, who's not on camera. There you go, Puck. I made it rain on Puck, too. 25 bits for space dogs. All right, so while you're typing in the remainder of your questions, it is, Sammy's like, you lie, it's 2002. So, oh, thank you, Falco. I'm just gonna do the station identification stuff. There's some cool info in there, so stay tuned. So first of all, we are brought to you by you. I am a part-time streamer that actually gets paid hourly for this, so thank you for all of your support, guys. Your bits, your donations, your pledges on Patreon, your merch purchases, your subscriptions, your gift subscriptions, all of that helps pay me to keep doing this, which I really, really appreciate, and it lets me spoil the dogs with Cheerios, because, yeah, they are totally spoiled. You have watched Daily Space, which is your daily-ish, Monday through Friday, space and astronomy news update. And we stream Sunday through Friday, where Sundays is myself, Annie, colorizing space telescope data. I am working on 2 interacting galaxies right now that are from the Spitzer Space Telescope. Usually I do Hubble data, so this is kind of a new thing for me. Trying to think. We always start streaming around 1 p.m. Eastern time. Right now that's 1700 hours UTC. And if you ever miss an episode, there's video on demand, and after a day or so you can check them out on YouTube too. So we archive pretty much everything on YouTube. And what else? We have the social medias, which I know I don't have the social media thingies, but we have social medias. Come hang out with us on Discord. Come follow us on Twitter, etc., etc. Oh, and I forgot to mention, if you don't have money to donate and to help contribute to the cause of #FeedAnnie or #FeedTheDogs, that's okay. Follows are free. I love to see new people in chat. And yeah, really, come hang out and chat with us. It's totally free. And I saw something. I saw a question, and I think somebody else already answered it, but I think that's all. Oh, yeah. Our host institution is PSI, that's Planetary Science Institute, in what I'm assuming is beautiful, sunny Tucson, Arizona, working in collaboration with Youngstown State University here in, oh my goodness, what season is it? Youngstown, Ohio. No joke, people. I've ran the AC and the heat both this week. And I think that's all the things. So I'm going to awkwardly roll the credits, as you do. And while I get those ready, we also need to find somebody to raid. So if anybody has any suggestions, now's the time to speak up. Family friendly, science or technology oriented is pretty much all I ask. And if nobody has any suggestions, then I will go to the Knowledge Fellowship, where we are a member. And oh, that's cool. I don't know if Horizon Psi is still. Nope, that's last Monday. Let's see, I see Adam's still live, or Adam was live. So yeah, if you guys don't suggest anybody else, they don't have to be in the Knowledge Fellowship, we're gonna raid Adam. So yeah, thank you all for tuning in. I appreciate all of it. I don't see any suggestions, so we're gonna raid Adam. All right. I'm gonna roll the credits now. Thank you so much for tuning in and chatting with me about all the ridiculous stuff that we chat about. And yeah, I will see you again on Friday. Bye!